Alrighty, guys. So we're gonna talk about two different tubes in this one, mainly because as far as testing goes, they're pretty much identical. So we're putting them together. So the first one that we're gonna talk about are the heparin tubes. Now, actually, both tubes that we're talking about are heparin. It's just one is as a separator, which makes it a PST. But this is the first one that we're talking about. This is your regular old heparin. The one that we have right here is called has heparin, and let's get to it. Now, heparin tubes, the Benson and Dixon kind, I do have one that is not. This is from VacuT, which is a slightly different. As you can see, the top is different, and the color of the gel is different as well. But we're talking about mainly focusing on the Benson and Dixon because they're kind of like the standard for these things. Uh, Now, these heparin tubes come spray with either lithium heparin or sodium heparin, and there is one that has ammonia heparin, but it's not one of these ones right here. But the main purpose for these tubes is the chemistry one. That's mainly what these tubes are made for. Now, these tubes, like I said, they do come in sodium heparin, lithium heparin, or ammonia heparin. And what they do is that heparin, if I'm not mistaken, was found in leeches originally. And what it does is that it actually binds to thrombin and it doesn't let the blood coagulate any further. Right now, this tube does come available for micro collections. So, but we're gonna move ahead now to the PSTs. And the PSTs are your plasma separating tubes, which are, these ones right here. You see the gel on this one. This is a Benson and Dixon one. This is lithium heparin. Now these tubes right here are the same tube as the one you saw. The only difference, as you can tell, between one and another, aside from you having the light green and dark green, this one also comes in a green marble kind of color. You'll see in a second. But the big difference between the two is this one has no gel and this one does. So the PSTs has a gel, so when you get the blood, you can actually separate it, which is really useful for some different types of purposes. So let's talk about the separator. This one contains comes is spray coated with lithium heparin, and in the bottom it actually has sodium thiotropic gel, and this is for chemistry again. Now this one does come in the light green one that you see right over here, okay, and it also has the green gray tops that you see on this box right here. They're exactly the same tube. For the most part, the green and gray tubes, the only difference is that they're bigger. So this one normally have a bit a larger capacity on some cases, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they can hold about 7.5, or I think 7.5, or wait, look, it says right here, 8 mLs. And these ones normally, the smaller ones are 3 mLs. You cannot see it on this picture, but that's normally what they hold. That's one of the biggest differences that you have between one and the other. Aside from that, they really are the same tube. Um, but they do make sometimes the smaller ones on the Tiger Top with no Hemoguard, and then the light green or mint color with that one comes with the Hemoguard normally. So now, what's the deal with this thing? It's actually mainly used for stat orders. Now, the reason why we use this for that purpose is that if you have, we're gonna compare now the PST to the SST, right? And what's the difference, right? There's two different tubes. Now, the PST is not as reliable as the SST because once you let the blood coagulate, it does make the blood more stable, right? That's one of the things that you have. The things don't tend to metabolize too much after the coagulation process has taken place. So it makes the specimen much more stable in the SST one. So that's the benefit of that one. But this one takes at least 30 minutes for the most part for you to let the blood coagulate or clot, right? And then you have to centrifuge for 15 minutes, which gives you on the low side a 45-minute wait time before you can actually um, start testing. Now the PST, as soon as you collect the blood, you can centrifuge it for 15 minutes, and guess what? You're done. Right? It's really, really fast. That's why it's used for stat. These are for when you need the results immediately. You're not too concerned about being as precise because if you wanted precision, the SST we want serum, right, not plasma. But when we want speed and we want a good ballpark, the PST is actually an awesome tube for that purpose. Again, remember, there's different types of treatments that you're trying to do in both cases. So that's why you have these tubes. Um, so yeah, so there is another one which we're going to talk about, which is called a RST, which is called rapid serum tube, but that is kind of like the best of both worlds, where you're able to coagulate the blood rather quickly, but you still get serum. But yeah. So some of the tests that you can do with these things would be like thyroid stimulating hormone (TSH) because it's a chemical. Now, would you want to do this with this for this one? Most of the times, this is actually not what you will want to do. You can, and if you actually look in a lot of different like LabCorp or NeuroQuest test menu, you can actually do a thyroid stimulating hormone with this tube. It's just not the preferred. It's the SST is the preferred tube, right? Now you can check cholesterol and stuff like that. Again, cholesterol is one of those things that it's kind of like a long-term thing, right? Um, so this wouldn't be again one of those stat things, but you can do it. The main one that you kind of looking at tests like these ones, for example, would be like things like electrolytes or drugs. Drugs are a lot of times another type of chemicals that you want to kind of investigate rather quickly. So that's kind of what you actually get to. Now, why did I put this test here? You probably wonder, and there is a reason. And a lot of times when they ask you for tests on the, it could be the NHA or the NCCT and so forth, if you had the TSH as far as a test and they ask you what tube would you draw for it, you would normally answer SST, right? But one of the problems sometimes that happens in the test is that they don't include this as an option, right? They'll have like a lavender tube, right? Your EDTA tube, which do we do this? Do we do thyroid stimulating hormone? No, we don't do that with this one. They might have light blue tube, right? Which is your sodium citrate. Do we do light blues with this one? No, right? We don't. That's also not a good one, right? So again, SST is not an option. Then you have like they'll put another one like the yellow, the SPS tube, right? No, we don't do that type of test with it. And then just to see if you pay attention in class or you know what you know phlebotomy a bit, they'll put a heparin tube. They'll put a PST. So that actually is a valid choice because these are chemistry tests, and you can do chemistry tests with a PST. So that would be the advantage of knowing that little. And it could happen that you ran out or something happened to the tubes, the SST tubes that you had. I mean, things happen, emergency situations happen, and let's say you did need to do a test, you might be able to use something different. It's not the preferred, it's not the best, but sometimes it's what you have available. And that's one of the reasons why they ask you that question. And this is what happens when you Google green top. I swear I'm stopping after this one. No more tops. All right. I just don't look good in any color, pretty much.